translated into Greek, Christos, from which they lopped off the os and left you with Christ.
Then what is Christ
Yes.
in Islam?
Yes. In Islam, we accept that Jesus was the Christ, meaning he was the one that was promised by God Almighty to come to the Jews and reform the Jews. Now, when he came, he claimed that he was the Messiah, from which we get the word Christ, through the word Christos, and from which again we get the word Christianity. But the word Christ was never heard by Jesus in his lifetime, because this is a Greek word. He said, I am the Messiah. He didn't say, I am the Christ in Greek, because he's talking to the Jews, a Jewish prophet coming to Jews, speaking that Jewish language, Hebrew or Aramaic.
He did, yeah, Aramaic, I thought he
Aramaic,
spoke.
yes. So while he's speaking, he's saying in his own language, he said, I am the Messiah, the anointed one, the chosen one. But his people didn't recognize him. They insinuated that he was an impostor, and as such, they had him hanged on the cross. The Muslim attitude is that he was a true messenger of God, and he was the Messiah. And more than that he was born miraculously, without any male intervention, and that he gave life to the dead by God's permission, and he healed those born blind and the lepers by God's permission. So we are going further than the Jews in the acceptance of Jesus Christ.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
Yes, I do have, and I also reason with them.
Are you sure you have Jewish friends?
Yes, I do have, ma'am. I worked for Jews for a number of years, and we had fantastic relationship, ma'am. And I have addressed Jewish audiences, and they seem to respond beautifully, to my messages.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Christ in Islam, you recognize him. The Jews do not. They are still waiting that Messiah. And then where does your prophet, sir, the prophet of Islam and the Bible, come in?
Yes. You see, Muhammad came 600 years after Jesus. Jesus the Christ. 600 years after. God Almighty appointed him. And now there was a dispute going on in his own environment between the Jews and the Christians with regards to the personality of Jesus. What was his stand? What would be the stand of his followers? So he clarifies the position for us with regards to Jesus, that he was one of the mightiest messengers of God. He was the Messiah. He was born miraculously, but he was not God in human form. He is not God incarnate. And he is not the begotten Son of God.
How can you tell that from the Bible?
The Bible also tells us the very same thing. I mean, in my reading of the Christian Bible, nowhere does Jesus ever say at any time, I am God, or worship me. Nowhere. There is not a single Bible among the many versions. There is not a single statement, unequivocal statement, anywhere in any Bible. But on the contrary, like you had mentioned a few minutes back, about I and my Father are one. Now people, when they read that, the Christian, now he is, I say, programmed. We are all programmed. There is no doubt about that. But we must be big enough to say, let's see if you can reprogram me. Now, the Christian has been programmed to think that when he said, I and my Father are one, which meant that he was claiming divinity, that he is God himself. We says, no, he didn't mean in that sense. Those Jews, according to the Christian scriptures, they took exception to that statement of his. But he explains, he said, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods, that people are even called gods in the scriptures, and you find no fault with that. Why are you taking exception to me when I say I am the Son of God? So in other words, now he was speaking in the sense that God Almighty and him, in purpose they are the same, not in omnipotence, in omniscience, or in any other spiritual matters. He, as he says, my Father is greater than I. So my Father is greater than all. He said, I can of my own self do nothing. God can do everything. He knows everything. He says, of that day, in the last day, no man, no, not the angels, not the Son, but the Father in heaven. No way does he claim equality with God. He's always a subordinate position. But now people, these statements are taken to me out of context, and a religion has been made out of it.
What about Muhammad?
Muhammad is no
he
more
a
than a
Messiah?
messenger. No, He is the messenger of God.
He's a messenger.
Yes. Jesus was also a messenger. But he was somebody that the Jews were waiting for, to liberate them from the Roman bondage, to free them. He had come to do a spiritual job of work. As he told Pontius Pilate, he says, my kingdom is not of this world. In other words, mine is a spiritual kingdom. I want to elevate these people spiritually. The people of the time, naturally being under bondage, under Roman rule, they wanted somebody, a physical liberator, making them masters of the world. So the man was not prepared to do that. So the Jews as a people, they had rejected him. But we feel that he was the Messiah that was promised to the Jews.
But if Muslims have Muhammad and the Christians have Jesus, and the Jews don't have anybody yet, is that right?
No, they have Moses and the prophets.
Well, but I mean, they don't have a latter day. Theirs go way, way back.
You see, because we feel that they missed the bus with regards to Jesus. But Jesus was the Messiah. But now the Jews have given up all hope of the Messiah. They don't talk about the Messiah anymore.
I bet they don't in their hearts. I bet they don't.
Yes, because they said, now look, we now need, they will take matters into our own hands. They wanted the Messiah to come and do a job for them. And practical philosophy they applied. Theodore Hertz said, no, we will get what the Messiah is supposed to do. And they did it. 1948, they established the state of Israel. They took the hands out of the Messiah's hand and they established the state of Israel.
For the first and only time that I was in Israel, I was in a dining room by myself, and I didn't know anything about the holy days. I didn't know anything about the customs. And I was finishing my supper, and I heard kind of a singing. And when I looked over and I saw some men softly singing, I honestly thought they were drunk. And I was sort of embarrassed. And then as this sound went around the room, this beautiful, beautiful sound came in these deep voices. Then I realized that they all had little books and that they were singing and giving thanks at the end of a meal. And the tears came to my eyes. It was so beautiful. And I felt the Spirit so strongly. I can't describe to you how strongly I felt that. And I truly felt that I was linked. I didn't know what they were singing. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that the presence of the Spirit was there. And that's what I call the Spirit that I felt when I first saw you. That same Spirit, because you have a radiant face, No, you do. And you don't have all those worry lines and those lines of anguish that people that don't know God.
Yes,
and so I feel that in you, I felt it in them, and I hope it is observed in a tiny bit in myself. And that's, to me, what's that unity? Is that the Christ? Is that Spirit? Is that, did Muhammad have a word for it? What is that?
I think it is to be in tune with God. See, if we are trying to fulfill the plan of God, His word, automatically I feel that this Spirit permeates in the person. Though you might carry what I would say wrong labels. We can have wrong labels put onto ourselves because we think maybe if I put this label is the right one or that one, but I think it's not the label. It is the Spirit, haq, truth. The Quran says, Al-haqqu min rabbikum wa la takun min al-mumtareen. It says truth comes from God alone. So be not of those who doubt. There is only one truth, and that truth is from God. Whatever God says is truth. Once you are in tune with that, you vibrate on His wavelength. You don't become gods, but you are on His same vibration as His vibration.
Now, Mr. Deedat, how can you explain, sir, with your deep knowledge of all of the religious literature, how can you explain that people from your religion, people from Christianity, people from Israel, people from every other religion, and especially those with no religion at all who deny God, that we're all out there cheerfully slaughtering each other every single day from morning until night, and sometimes they stay up all night to get the job done?
True, ma'am.
Where is God and Mohammed, everybody?
It is programming, ma'am. You see, we all can get programmed into any types of attitudes. I mean, we take Germany, Hitlerite Germany. Is Germany one of the most cultured nations in Europe? Is it possible that they could have incinerated 6 million Jews under Hitler? Obvious answer is no. How can a nation so cultured do a thing like that? But programming, we all can get brainwashed. And I say, whether Muslim, Hindu, or whatever, titles you give to yourself, we all can be programmed into right and wrong. But to look at the problem objectively.